Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Root Beer here, and we are looking at question number 23 on the grade 7 Gauss paper from the year 2008. There are 24 ways in which Beverly, Diane, Ethan, and Jamal can arrange themselves to sit in a row of 4 seats. Okay, that makes sense. If you don't know already, and there's no reason you should in grade 7, but the number of ways to arrange 4 people in a row is expressed with 4 as 4 factorial. This is 4 with a little exclamation mark, and he is 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. Just a little bit of interesting math knowledge. We may end up using factorials to do this question, although I'll try and approach it in a way that doesn't use that. Okay, so we're being asked now, in how many ways can Beverly, Diane, Ethan, and Jamal arrange themselves in a row of 4 seats so that Ethan does not sit beside Diane? Okay. So it's an interesting question, and I've given something similar to it on university level exams, so you can be forgiven for thinking this might be a challenging question. There are a couple ways I can think to do this one. The most obvious way, and the most basic way, is just to list them all out. Okay? Better yet, because sometimes when you try and list things out, if you don't know how many you're trying to list out, you can miss one or you can double count things. But if, when you say, well, why don't we figure out how many I should list out? If I could do that without listing them out, I could just solve this question. But what we can do is, we know there's 24 ways in which to arrange them all. How about we list all those out, and then cross off the ones where Ethan and Diane are sitting beside each other. So that's one way to do it. Let's try that now. We might find this a bit time-consuming, in which case we'll talk about how to line people up and other arrangements. But we've got Bethany, Diane, Ethan, and Jamal. And so I'm going to do these in groups based on who's listed first. So we'll have Bethany first, then we'll have Diane first. And then we'll have the arrangements where Ethan is first, or I guess they're sitting, so it's not a first, but Ethan is the leftmost. And finally we'll do Jamal. Okay. So Bethany, we can do Diane, Jamal, Ethan. We could have a couple with Ethan, Diane and Jamal, Jamal, Diane, or Jamal, Diane, Ethan, Ethan, Diane. So what I'm doing is I'm starting off primarily with things in alphabetical order, and then I'm making tiny little switches. I've practiced writing out permutations before, which is why I'm doing this fairly quickly. If it's your first time with a question like this, it's going to take you a while, and you will likely miss them. But miss some of the possibilities. Fortunately, they tell you 24 different ways. And if you understand why it is 24 different ways, because suppose we have our 4 seats here. We're going to seat our 4 people. Well, when it comes to seating this leftmost chair, this first chair, how many people do I have to pick from? Well, I've got, Beverly. I think I've been saying Bethany or something like that. Beverly. We've got Beverly, Diane, Ethan, and Jamal. And so 4 different people to choose from. So that's 4 possibilities. Once we've chosen them, say we stick Beverly there, we've got 3 more people to pick for the next spot. And then one of them is taken out of the possibilities. So that leaves us with 2 more. And finally 1 more. And we multiply them all together, and that's why we get 24. Okay? When you realize that, you'll realize, well, we have 4 different people who could be sitting first. I'm going to have groups, and I can base them as to who's sitting first. So that's why I've got my 6 with Bethany, my 6 with Diane. I keep saying Bethany. Beverly, Diane, Ethan, Jamal. Okay? So as I say, we can list them all out. Notice how long this is taking me, and I know what I'm doing with permutations. I teach a course that has a lot of permutations in it. It's quite time-consuming to do this. B, E, and we'll do EB. But if this is the only way you can do this, if you have trouble approaching the problem in other ways, you go with what works. Now you might say to yourself, gee, this is time-consuming. Maybe I should try one of the other problems because there's some actual math to be done. Whereas you'll notice I'm not doing a whole lot of calculation here, other than explaining this 24 as a sort of side adventure, I'm not doing any math. I'm just listing things out. And that's not particularly calculation intensive. It's just a long sort of slog. Okay, DBE, DEB. Oh, we already did B. Oh, we did the B's there as well. See, this is what I mean. I get talking, and even I'm falling to bits here. D, DB. This will be E. E, B, D, and DB. Alright, so I've listed out all 24. Gee, that took me a while, but if that's the only way I know how to do this, that's the only way I know how to do this. And what do we want? We want Ethan doesn't sit by Diane. So I just go through them one at a time. Well, Ethan and Diane are sitting next to each other, so that's off the list. This one's fine. Nope. Yep. Ethan and Diane again. Nope. Nope. This one's fine, but here they are again. So we cross them off, and these last two are fine. There's fine, that's fine. I'm just looking for E's and D's next to each other, which actually makes this part of the process fairly quick. Nope, nope. Fine, fine. Fine, nope. Oh, sorry, this one was not fine. Okay. So, what have we got going on here? Well, let's just count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So my final answer is 12. And that's an answer B. Okay. But that was not very satisfying. Certainly not to me, most likely not to you, because that wasn't really a whole lot of math. This was, can I print out a list and then read my list? Okay? Now there's a little bit of math there, because there's an organizational property to writing out your list in an efficient way. And some of that comes from understanding why we get 24, 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. But we can do better. We can certainly do better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to approach this in a more advanced way. We're just going to talk our way out of it. If you don't understand it, that's okay. I'm just going to sort of have a little talk about permutations. I wish I could just, pause this video and do an hour of sort of counting theory, permutations, combinations, but it doesn't come up enough in a math contest for me to feel the need to do it right now. Although, maybe I'll make some videos about permutations and combinations if people are interested. Feel free to leave a comment below. Anyway, so I know that there's 24 ways to seat them. Okay, because I know it's 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. 4 choices for the first seat, 3 people left because you've picked one of the 4 for the first seat, and then 2 people left, and then finally the last person gets seated. Okay, so this is made up of ways that Ethan and Diane can be together, and ways where they can't be together. We want to count the number of ways where they can't be together. That's not the easiest thing to do, but we can count the ways that Ethan and Diane can be seated together. Okay, so we'll figure that number out. It'll be 12, and we'll subtract it from 24. Okay, how are we going to do this? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, stick Ethan and Diane together. Imagine they're sort of that really annoying couple that, always got their hands in each other's pockets, and they're always hugging, and they're just sort of a one person. They are a blob creature together. I'm going to force Ethan and Diane to be stuck together. Now, when I do this, I have to be careful. If we go back to our list, we'll see that there are plenty where it goes, Beverly, Diane, Ethan, Jamal, but there's also one that goes Beverly, Ethan, Diane, Jamal. Okay, BDEJ, BEDJ. Okay, there's an order to these two people because they're being lined up, so it matters whether or not Ethan is on the right or left of Diane. Okay, so what are we going to do? Well, we'll make sort of a hybrid person. I explained this to my finite math class as we make a blob person. I would just sort of merge them together. So we have a choice of Diane Ethan or Ethan Diane as our blob person. That's two ways to do that. In truth, this is because when we're making our hybrid person, we have two choices for the person on the left, and then one choice for the person on the right. But there's two ways to pick our hybrid person. Once we have them, then we have Beverly, Jamal, and our hybrid person. Okay? And now the question is, how many ways can I arrange them? Well, I could list them all out, Beverly, Jamal, hybrid, Beverly, hybrid, Jamal, let's say hybrid, Jamal, Beverly, hybrid, Beverly, Jamal, Jamal, hybrid, Beverly, and Jamal, Beverly, hybrid. Okay, we can list them all out if we wanted to. Although, maybe if we're a little tired of listing things, we could realize, well, we've got three people, although one is sort of a hybrid person. We've got three people, so there's three choices for the person on the left, two choices after we've made the first choice, and then one person left to be chosen to be in the rightmost. That's 3 times 2 times 1. That's 6. So there's two ways to make the hybrid person. Once we have the hybrid person made, there's 6 ways to arrange them. So there's 2 times 6, 12 ways for Ethan and Diane to sit together. So now our question becomes, well, we know there's 24 ways, minus the 12 ways that we're not interested in counting, gives me a total of 12 ways that we can have no Ethan and Diane. And so once again, that's B. Okay. So this method was, it's more about intuition and thinking about things. It's more about understanding where your counting ways comes from. Why is it 4 times 3 times 2 times 1? And then why is it 3 times 2 times 1? We understand that we have to put that together, and we don't really need lists if we don't want them. I did make one list very quickly to once again justify the 6 ways, but if you're thinking about it, you don't need to list that out. Okay? And if you think about it even further, you can now make bigger and scarier problems like this. Okay? Imagine I had 12 people, and, these 3, Abel, Colleen, and Beth, they need to sit together, and, these 2, Xavier and Yolanda, they have to sit together. We can start creating blob people and arranging those blob people amongst the regular people in various intricate ways, all based on these principles. Create your blob people, arrange them. How many ways were there for you to create your blob people? And just multiply it all together. But that's getting actually advanced. I mean, these are genuinely questions of the same caliber that I put on midterms for my finite math class. So if you didn't get this one, that's okay. And if you needed to list things out, that's okay. It's a grade 7 contest. But this is the sort of reasoning. The second way I did it is the sort of reasoning that you will see if you continue on in math, and the sort of thing you should start trying to master if you want to do really well on these contests and be a bit more advanced than your fellow mathletes. So permutations is certainly a word that you might want to look up. Arrangements, factorials, combinations. These are all things that are in your math contest future. Okay? But question 23 is all done. I will see you guys for question number 24 in the next video.